Oh, I'm exactly the same. Don't worry. Like
tripping over my own words.
Yeah, I'm completely the same. Had I the mental capacity or the time, I'd probably do like a bloopers rule and like just throw that as an April Fool's or something. But as it is,
yeah, we've got a few. I just cannot be asked editing videos together. It's just like.
Hello everyone, and welcome to John Drinks. And today I'm in Manchester, and you get to find out what an actual Mancunian sounds like because it's not me. I'm here with Phil today.
Nor me either, really. To be fair.
You're doing a much better job than I am. Yeah. To be fair, of a Mancunian accent.
I meet like distant family I've not seen in ages, and they go like, "Where do you live now?" I'm like, "Oh, I still live in Salford." You know, I just watched a lot of James Bond as a kid, so like the accent kind of leveled out.
Yeah, I think mine was American TV, which doesn't explain why I sound like the Queen raised me. But we're here in the Whisky shop in Manchester, which is a phrase I don't get to use very often.
Pretty, isn't it?
Yeah, it's cute. There's like barrels and like really ornate, lovely shelves over there. I might take photos because we're due a refurb at mine, so I'm just going to steal some ideas, I reckon.
Please do. It's a ball ache to clean this place, but it does look quite pretty.
Well, you know.
I have to kind of pinch myself every now and then because I work here. It's quite fun.
You get to work with whiskey and like dust bottles, so that's seven.
I can put the white gloves on, walk around listing things.
Dan told me to wear white gloves. My bosses want me to start wearing white gloves, and I'm like, I'm not turning to Bugs Bunny. It doesn't help.
He does wear white gloves.
He does, and cigars, I think. Isn't it the Looney Tunes all wear like
cigars?
Exploding
cigars and everything.
Yeah, it's like...
Maybe not so much anymore.
Anyway, what are we doing? We're talking about Ben Nevis today. So, a while ago, I drank some Ben Nevis, and it was good. And a while ago, he drank some Ben Nevis, and it was good.
Surprising.
Yeah.
It was surprising, yeah.
And there was a plot, basically, to exchange Ben Nevises and find out which one we preferred, and also if there is actually any difference between batches. So we are here. Now then, I still have my Ben Nevis, the one that you had has long since flown the coop.
It has, unfortunately.
Which, maybe that's an implication that that one is better, I don't know. But this is a sample that Phil sent me, that I luckily brought with me, because otherwise this wouldn't happen. And we're basically just going to kind of see what the difference between Ben Nevis's is. This is going to be pretty low-key, to be honest.
I think it's going to be quite interesting. I mentioned in the video, I'm sure many people have who are watching this who've tried Ben Nevis. John said many times in his video, that stuff's so hard to get and just hard to find. So, I mean, I don't think I've got any Ben Nevis independent stuff in front of me, but I only knew it from independents, like 7-year-olds all the way to like 20-something-year-olds. You get the occasional 30-year-old in there, and they all tasted quite different. If they were sherry, they were particularly chocolatey and coffee. If they were bourbony, they were like petrol, forecourt sort of thing, very diesel, just industrial sort of flavours to them. I remember that one having elements of that. I briefly smelled this and get that quite a bit from it. It's almost like a mushroomy, truffly sort of things. But yeah, it's just hard to get. So it's probably one of the only whiskies I can think of where you can't really find the actual bottle. And it's not due to like secondary demand or highly inflated prices, it's just not there.
Yeah, it's just difficult to get your hands on full stop. I mean, the adventure that I had to go on for this is well documented. And if you haven't seen that, there'll be a card. I'm getting better at that.
I still need to learn how to do that.
Yeah, I always forget like which side it's.
Yeah,
it's that one because it shows up when you're facing it. It's on that side, so you have to do that side.
I get that.
What happened to annotations? They were great. I loved annotations. You got to like hide Easter eggs and stuff, and if people found them, it was great. And then they just got rid of them.
I still use Movie Maker.
I mean, to be fair, I probably should as well. To be fair, for all the editing I do these days. Do you know what? I'm curious actually, do you have any thoughts on the actual label itself? Because I certainly do.
Yeah, I like it. The new one is very clean, and I think that was a deliberate thing by Nikka just to welcome it into a market. It's a same bottle. I don't think the cork's the same, but the bottle is exactly the same, but the label is almost like a brilliant white, and the tin is almost like an olive sort of green, so it does stand out. But I do like it. It's just, there's something archaic in a nice way about Ben Nevis. And I love like the thistles on it and the, not huge, but like the cross script in the palm in the middle of it. It almost looks...
It's ridiculously sort of Archaic is a good word for it. It's gaudy.
It's gaudy too. Yeah,
yeah, it's like
some very flashy,
shitty chic kind of thing.
Yeah.
I've been talking about 10 years ago.
But it does. The label, even though this bottle isn't particularly old, the label looks like something you'd find at the back of like a dusty cupboard in like a renovated house or something.
Yeah, it's like somebody tried to like have a design. They tried to go old school. To be fair, they kind of nailed it because it looks older than it actually is.
Significantly, even like the. I don't know if this is just from the travel it's been in, but even like the fraying of the edges and just the way it's sort of stained, even if it was only been open for like a year or so. But
yeah.
It just seems to be getting, what's the word?
Yeah, I mean, this has also been like knocked around a bit, so I think that is just from like travel damage. But
it looks good. I like it.
Yeah, you know, I also used to work with somebody who worked at Ben Nevis, and she was like, she'd never tried the whiskey, so I was like, that's strange, I'm going to bring a bottle in, and mixed opinions, certainly.
I can understand.
Yeah, because it's definitely not like an opening malt by any stretch of the imagination.
I feel like it should be classed as its own thing, to be honest.
Yeah.
Campbelltown's a region with 3 distilleries. Ben Nevis should just be Ben Nevis.
3 with a massive asterisk on it now, because I mean they've nearly doubled in capacity in the last, what is it, 48 bloody hours or something. They've declared 2 new distilleries.
Oh, is it 2? I thought it was 1.
2.
Oh, is it 2? Okay. I knew about the 1, but I didn't know about the 2.
Yeah.
And 2 of them are owned by the same company anyway. So.
Yeah. So.
Good whiskey there. Can't fault it.
Yeah, I don't know if like property prices have suddenly gone down on Campbelltown or what's going on there, but
I did find a mansion on Rightmove in Campbelltown for 6-bedroom mansion, £400,000.
That's about what you get for a flat in Edinburgh. So
yeah,
I mean,
nice. Yeah, about half of that in Manchester. But 6 bedrooms, Airbnb. It's right next to Springbank.
Also, it's a mansion.
It's a mansion.
Yeah. How's the transport like? Any primary schools nearby?
Yeah, probably. Someone lives in Campbelltown, I think. So just the 4 people who work at Springbank.
Right, we're starting with.
Yeah, so this is the new one.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember my tasting notes and my smelling notes from it, but
don't want to show yourself up too much.
I always show myself up, especially in like blind tastings. But I remember it just being like fresher than what I remember with Ben Nevis, even in the indie stuff. So
I mean, straight away, it's I can't just say fruitier.
I was gonna say like apple and orange.
Yeah.
It's just got these nice soft citrus peel things going on with it.
So I'm not gonna lie, like right up until now, I was expecting to come into this. I was like, oh yeah, cool, they're broadly identical. End of video, haha. But actually,
yeah. Even from just the nose, and I smelt the old one off camera. The old one is quite different straight away. But with this, it could almost just be like a space side. To be fair, from the nose.
Do you know? I was thinking the same thing. I was kind of like, it's got like kind of like green apple kind of.
It's very much green and just like fresh orange. Like when you put your thumb into it, it starts to peel it. It's got all that going on. Not much more, I will say. That seems to be the dominant thing. I don't know if I'm sticking my nose in too much, but there's like a mint thing in it, almost like a eucalyptus.
If I was to nail it down to a biscuit, it would maybe be like a pink wafer. It's got like kind of like weird dusty vanilla kind of.
Power of persuasion takes over these things. I was going to say the brand then, I can't say the brand yet, all NDA, but I was doing a bourbon selection in London a couple of days ago, and everything just started to smell like mint. And at that point I was like, oh, is that like a weird sign of COVID? Luckily it wasn't.
Yeah, it's at that point you have to like do that weird thing, like you
smell it in your hand and
yeah.
just drinking water. But I get the vanilla thing, yeah. I need to eat more biscuits, clearly. Yeah, dominant. That apple thing is huge now. You're really right.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, the stills are still the same. They've not changed stills out. The ABV's the same on both. One would assume they're both natural colour and non-chill filtered. They look the same in the glass.
But I can understand why, like, if, say for example, you know, they'd maybe had a change of fortunes where they couldn't maybe use their Ben Nevis the way that they've been using it so far. They might want to make
more stock
more available, but also more approachable, because obviously that's suddenly kind of becoming their entry level, rather than what it has been, which is sort of like a train spotter's delight. You know, it's a curiosity.
Yeah, it was almost like a unicorn thing within the Scotch single malt industry. It's like, you try Campbelltown, you tried the Highlands, you try Ben Nevis, and you go, can't find it.
Yeah.
And occasionally a whiskey bar, more than likely in Edinburgh or Glasgow, would have one.
Have we ever had a Ben Nevis?
I've never seen that one in any bar in Manchester or London. I frequent Glasgow more than Edinburgh, unfortunately, but even then I've never seen it in the Pot Still or even
or something like that.
They just weren't there. So it's odd to have it here right now because we've never sold it in this shop. So this could be the only bottle of the old one we ever see in here. Which in itself is kind of the sad factor.
Just take a load of selfies next to the shelf. It's like it was here very briefly.
Yeah, might put it in the window and see what attention it gets.
People start smashing the windows down.
That'll happen in November. I don't want to.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah,
Okay.
it's expensive. Yeah, it's fresh. It's light.
It's got some like, I don't want to say generic bourbon characteristics. You know, it's like that sweet corn kind of.
I mean,
maybe this is just throwing me off. Maybe I just need to hide that.
Possible. No, I get like a nitty thing. I always get that on ex-bourbon casks, especially. There'll be some stuff in there which is like second and third fill. It always tends to fill through a bit on those third fill casks. You've already mentioned vanilla, classic, bourbon smells. It's not toffee. It's not caramelly. It's not like.
Which are kind of my go-tos, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm ever struggling for anything to find, it's like it's kind of like caramel. Something like caramels.
Like I wouldn't describe it as like an indulgent bourbon cask smell. It's just kind of it's fruity. It's light. It's quite summery almost. But
yeah, it's fresh, for want of a better way of putting it. Really,
yeah.
It's a fruit bowl.
A little tingle of spice on the nose, but I'm intrigued to try it because I finished my bottle of this. December was a rough month. That's what it was for you. So I finished my bottle in December amongst a blur of other bottles just being thrown into the recycling bin. But
I thought you were going to say thrown into a jug. Then I was like, Jesus.
No, I didn't get that bad. Maybe like batch made cocktails or something. But I'm going for the taste. It's been 2 months, so.
Okay, I will say straight away that is radically different from the old stuff.
Okay. If you gave me that blind, I wouldn't know where to say it's from, but I would probably. Yeah. The spice on the end is quite nice. That would probably make me go, oh, it's probably a Highland, bit boozier, bit rounder.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely indicates to it that you're dealing with something that's got a bit more punch to it.
Oh, for sure.
But at the same time, it's not kind of like flooring it.
No, it does start off quite light. It starts like the noses. And then it does. It builds to a profile of a bit of spice and it looks like an oatiness to it. Like a savoury kind of grain thing. It's got a bit of spirit as well.
Yeah,
it's not the most barrel influence thing.
One of the things that strikes me most is that what's not there. Ben Nevis that I've had in the past have always had a very kind of like industrial Genever-y kind of a note to them. That kind of like getting smashed in the face with a loaf of bread kind of a thing. This, I'm not picking up on it at all. That kind of like fresh, yeasty kind of a component. Instead, it's more kind of like a apples and a wafer cone kind of a thing. It's much more kind of like subdued.
Very much. I think there's something unusual on the finish. It is, I mean, as you can see by the colour, it's not the darkest thing in the world, even at 10 years old. So generic bourbon influence. It never stated any sherry influence. Certainly don't get it on the nose. It's trying to do something on the finish which comes across kind of just a bit new make spirity. Not in a bad way. It's there, it's young, it's alive. The apple thing would indicate, again, it's always like a new make smell sort of thing. I don't know what their fermentation is like. Everyone seems to be doing 1 million hours of fermentation these days, so I don't know if this would have gone through that as well, because it is quite, what's the word I want to use? Just appley. Longer fermentations always lead to those appley notes in anything. I still like it. I think my score for it was, I gave it an 8 or an 8.5. Just because I've never tried an official Ben Nevis before. And I will buy another bottle of it, because I just quite liked it.
I will say, actually, it's lovely, but it's doing so many, it's reminding me a lot of like an Altmore 12, that kind of a
grassy,
like a grassy, summery,
mossy
fruity.
sort of thing as well,
And then at the finish, it's like a little bit licoricey. I don't know if maybe I'm just being weird.
No, I was going to say like star anise, licorice,
yeah.
Almost like a fennelly sort of thing, but
yeah, because I started tasting it, I was like, am I okay? Is that a thing, or am I like willing it? But no,
there is something with that. I am quite excited to try the old one. Just I had a brief smell of it, and it just smelled specifically reminded me of like, well, I'll say that in a bit, but there was just something so unusual about the smell.
Well, I think now's a good time to crack into it, to be fair.
What that thing is, specifically, and we can do this as like pretentious smelling of the year.
Go for it. The year is young, but go for it.
The year is young. Think of like a mushroom pizza with truffle oil on it.
No, you're right. That is quite pretentious, but I mean,
very pretentious.
It's fun. You're not wrong.
Obviously, with smelling notes and things, we all know it's quite personal. But there was a brief spell where I tried to like tried veggie food out and vegan food and stuff just to see if I could find options that weren't meat.
So you're like, truffle's a vegetarian, right?
Yeah. So I went through everything. I just eat a bit of everything now anyway. But I ordered a mushroom pizza in a restaurant called, is it Forsyth or Foursquare? It's up in the northern quarter somewhere in Manchester. And they dress it with truffle oil. But there is just something mushroomy and earthy and truffly about that. And that kind of like umami, super savoury thing.
See, up in Scotland, we just put truffle oil on chips and it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, truffle oil. Great. But truffle also does have that almost like, this isn't a word, I'm convinced it is a like petrolic, petrol-y,
yeah,
four-core.
Petrochemical kind of, yeah.
Don't know why, it tastes delicious and everything, but there are like, truffle, mushroom, petrol, diesel, whatever your fuel of choice is.
I mean, I gave this to a couple of colleagues, and one of them described it as umami, and the other one described it as quite, what's the word, sulfuric.
Yeah, I suppose that does delve into that.
Again, like an eggy edge to it almost. But
again, I don't know about sherry influence. Obviously, that's associated now with sherry, but in a good and a bad way for some. But it does seem to be a bit more coating to the glass than the other one. I don't know. But
I didn't even bother. It's one of those things that I've just gotten out of the habit of doing, is checking legs, because it's...
Yeah, I have to remind myself...
It's not something that interests me when it comes to nosing and tasting whiskey. It's not...
No, I do have to remind myself to do it. I find myself doing it a lot. I like one-on-one tasting events with customers and things, just because if they've never used a Glencairn, I always figure out that part. But it does seem to be a bit stickier to the glass.
I mean, the Glasgow Whisky Festival just happened. I was not in attendance. I don't know if you were.
I was not. Loads of my customers were though, so
well, good.
Probably all seen this video.
Good for them. But I mean, with the amount of swilling that was going on there, you could probably have wired up the tent to the national grid and gotten like a year's worth of power off of it.
More than likely. Although people don't swill anymore. There's always that argument, isn't there? They do this. Right. I still do like the full spin thing. I know it's like a wine technique, but it still seems to work for me. Every person I've met in the whiskey industry who I adore does this. So.
I mean, there are some people in the whiskey industry that threaten their customers and then throw the whiskey on the floor. So I mean, you know, it's who you are as much as anything else.
Absolutely. So it's all so personal. But yeah, I mean, they smell so different.
Yeah.
That's different distilleries. That now smells.
That's kind of what threw me about this. I was like,
I get the vanilla thing so much more now in the old one. Like the sweetness on that steps up so much more.
Which is what makes, and that's why I brought the comment forward of like they're clearly trying to do something quite different with this.
Totally. Just on smell alone. Again, if you gave me this blind, I wouldn't know where to say it was from, because nothing smells like that. Maybe like the odd, unusual single cask from Long Road or something, you know.
Or maybe like some old stock when it starts coming out. But yeah,
Oh, the sulfury thing now. I get like a.
Yeah. See, I don't mind it.
No, me neither. It almost reminds me of like, again, more food notes, like sagey, but. Didn't want more cooking, probably tell about that.
Also, we synchronise that glass.
That's quite good. We can use that as like the audio check. They are different. They are radically different.
Yeah.
Again, I wouldn't say it was the same distillery, but it's the same distiller. Right?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I've done this with distilleries before, where like they have. Ben Roma, for example, they have a redesign, and you're kind of like, oh, they changed. There's subtle differences. It's like it's moved the. But with these, it's
chalk and cheese, isn't it?
It really is. It's kind of crazy. I mean,
there's no bottling date on that.
No.
So that was.
It could have been. That's the thing as well. I don't know how long this was hanging around for, because it was just
there.
I think they just found it in the back somewhere. To be honest with you, but
that was definitely bottled last year, 2021.
Yeah.
So we could compare in a couple of years, or we could be a decade. I'm not sure. But yeah, they are hugely different. The finish on the taste and the finish on this are just what the nose are. Yeah. So it's savoury. It's like really sort of robust and just like weirdly like macho, for want of a better word. It just kind of like storms through. This was like delicate and light and subtle, and then this is just
I think I've got it actually. It's the fruit on the cheese board versus the cheese.
Yeah, the grape versus the stone sort of thing. Yeah, that is incredible.
Yeah.
How different they are. I mean, if same distiller, regardless of time, like separated between them, one would assume all bourbon casks, probably, or some very knackered sherry barrels. 46% natural colour, no filtering, all that. Different products. I prefer the old one, will say. I do like the new one and will buy another bottle of it, but it is, try and get by the old one, it is now a little more generic. Not a bad thing, but it is compared to the, well, we talk about like Ben Nevis having a funkiness to it, don't we? Same with Springbank and Brookladdy, they have just this unique distillery characteristic. And the secondary market goes crazy for Ben Nevis 10.
And it's our fault.
Many things have been YouTubers' fault,
Yeah.
especially in the whiskey world, but that is quite remarkable. I don't know if I want to score them. I feel kind of cruel scoring them because they are so different.
Yeah, it's...
It wouldn't be kind of right to do it.
Yeah, it's like
And just the ability to
grading
not
the
find
athletic
it.
kid versus the nerdy kid. It's like they're both good at different things.
Absolutely. And because you can't, I always feel bad scoring whiskies that you can't get anymore. Yeah, there's no point.
I mean, I don't, but I mean, I'm a dick, so...
Well, it's not that at all. I just feel like if I watched a review and it was like, this is great, but you can't get anymore, I'd be like, well, I'll probably stop watching at that point.
Yeah, it's like, well...
But it's nice to know that if anyone has found these in like a dusty shop in the middle of an old town square somewhere, get it, because it probably is there, you know, in like old off-license shelves and things, just gathering.
That's the thing,
Swag takes for decades.
Yeah, there will be that stuff out there that just, you know, it's in a location where nobody drinks whiskey or nobody really knows what it is. And because of, I mean, the label, certainly,
Well,
it's just sat there.
I've lost my pipette, so...
Well, I've been using paper straws for the past 6 months.
Oh, that one's worked quite nice actually. Just intrigued if it gets even close to the new style with water.
Well, how I call them is there are Tim Burton biodegradable pipettes. Because we've got the black and white stripy ones.
Oh, very nice.
And they're kind of like, oh, they're really cool. And then you bring out the straw, and I was like, where's the pipette? And I was like,
This is
a
it?
joke.
Yeah. Ah, okay. Yeah, a bit of water does kill off the
It brings that kind of like
orange
edge
apple
off
thing
of
through.
it.
It does kill a lot of like the industrial funk to it, which is kind of why I like it. Because if you put that in a tasting, if it was still available, and you put that near the end with the peated stuff, that would probably divide people more than a bottle of Kalila.
Probably. I mean, when it was at the end of, I think it was one of our last Christmas shifts, and I brought this in. It must have been because we still had the girl that used to work at Ben Nevis with us.
Oh, okay.
And I brought this in, and girl quite liked it, and then a couple of others were like, including one guy who like brings in the randomest stuff, including like distilled antler juice and stuff. It's like, I don't know where he finds this stuff. I don't want to know, to be honest, because I'm sure he's got a dealer, I'm sure he's called Vlad, and I'm sure you don't want to cross him. Yeah, he was just like, he was not into it at all. And I was like, this is the thing that turns you off, really?
The old school benefit.
But yeah.
I've never seen Ralphie's video on this, but I'm assuming he said exactly the same things we've said in the sense that it's so distinct. This is, I should say, versus this, and we all know with, not going to name names, but they also begin with Ben. The other rebrands that have gone on, where they've not fallen away from what made them fun, but they've become a lot more beige.
Falling in line.
Yeah, falling in line, just a lot more beige in the colour palette. They're not kind of standing out in the way they used to, both in their redesign style and within the liquid inside. I'm still yet to review those bottles, but they will be coming up at some point. I now know what it tastes like. So if I ever smell 46% petrol, I know it's Ben Nevis, or older Ben Nevis, from an official bottle. But yeah, thank you for that, John. That is
that's
that is
absolutely
a
fine.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
What did you score that?
Oh, yeah, well, you're testing me now. I think it was something like I mean, my scoring system is weird, so I think it was a 17 out of 20.
Yeah, I know your scheme yours has.
Yeah, I based it off of my old. It's it's the grading system that they use for degrees at the University of Aberdeen. So I kind of. So I stole their system and then like readjusted it for my own purposes.
That makes sense. To be fair, the out of 10 thing gets a little bit generic after a while. But then again, with the out of 100 thing,
I don't know where to start without 100.
I know.
I don't know where to start.
What makes an 81 better than an 80?
Yeah.
I honestly don't know. So that's why I stick to 10s and like maybe I'll give it a 0.5. But yeah, that is Ben Nevis. Old Ben Nevis is fun. The new stuff is lovely.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to kind of see how the two play together, because
Still a single malt.
Why not?
Yeah. I imagine one is just still quite dominant, right?
That's odd.
Mm.
It's like it cancelled out all of the predominant features of either malt
Well, it just became.
and became really gingery.
I mean, tasting ginger, it would make sense.
Yeah. But like, there's none of the funk, and the apples disappeared as well.
Just ginger instead.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like met in the middle with ginger.
Like raw ginger, like.
Yeah, like take a bite out of like fresh ginger. It's interesting.
Depending
I don't hate it, but
No.
it's just not what. And then the licorice is coming through, so the newer one is kind of taking over towards the end. But
Did Ben Nevis do Distillery tours?
they did last I
They did,
checked. There's been like 5 tsunamis this week since then, so I mean they might have been swept off into orbit or something. But
Isn't there like a tyre plant behind Ben Nevis Distillery too? Like Michelin or Goodyear or something?
I don't know, but it would explain a lot.
It does
of this.
explain all that. They just
Yeah.
opened the kiln doors one day.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, cool, that's what it is. It's burning rubber.
I mean, it does have that element to it for sure.
Yeah.
That's such a bizarre bottle of whiskey. It's like one of those things that you like the smell of that you shouldn't. Like a petrol.
Yeah.
Like when you fill the car up and you're like, I shouldn't enjoy this smell, but I do. Or the smell of like tyres on fire. You know, as many people rent quite expensive cars on the street where this shop is based, and we hear that quite a lot.
Or you've just grown up in the suburbs in Manchester.
Yeah, there is that
Yeah.
too. More the car than the tyres.